Book of Heaven, Volume 26, Part 3. May 9th, 1929. How it was necessary that Jesus centralize in Luisa the human sanctity in order to consummate it and give rise to the sanctity of living in the divine will. How voluntary suffering is something great before God. I had read in the first volume of my writings how our Lord had told me that he wanted me to accept going into battle against the infernal enemy in the hard trials, to which I submitted myself. So I was thinking to myself, it seems to me that there is a contradiction, because Jesus has told me many times that one who lives in his divine will is not subject to either temptations or disturbances. Nor does the enemy have the power to enter into the divine fiat, because it would burn him more than the very fire of hell. And in order not to be burned more, he runs away from the soul who lives in it. Now, while I was thinking about this and many other things, my sweet Jesus, moving in my interior, told me, "My daughter, you are wrong, nor are there contradictions. You must know that, since I was to call you in a way all special to live in my divine will, to make it known to you, and through you make known to others the sanctity of living in it, so that it might reign on earth, it was necessary that I centralize in you the whole of the human sanctity, in order to consummate it in you, and to give rise to the true sanctity of the living in my divine volition. Sanctity in the human order was to be the footstool, the throne, of the sanctity in the order of my divine will. And this is why, from the very beginning, when I called you to the state of victim, and to all that you suffered during that time, first, I would tell you, to ask you whether you would accept. And after you had accepted, then I would put you in that state of pain. From you, I wanted voluntary suffering, not forced, because it was your will that I wanted to make die, and over your will, almost like a little flame that is extinguished, ignite the great fire of the sun of my fiat. Voluntary suffering is something great before our Supreme Majesty, and therefore, over the death of your will, drowned with pains, my will could have dominion, and could dispose you to receive the greater good of its knowledges. Was it not my suffering, all voluntary, no one could impose himself on me, that formed the great good of redemption? So everything you suffered at that time was nothing other than the completion of the order of sanctity in the human way. And this is why I told you almost nothing about the sanctity of living in my divine will. I wanted to complete one in order to start the other. And when I saw that you denied me nothing of what I wanted, even at the cost of your life, and as you would deny me nothing, you would lose the way and would find itself in the continuous act of dying, my will made its way and reacquired its life in you. And as it kept reacquiring its life, so it kept revealing itself, telling you its long story, its sorrow, and how it yearns to come to reign in the midst of creatures. My word is life, and as I kept speaking to you about my fiat, more than tender Father, so I kept forming its life in you. In fact, you could never have understood what regarded my will had you not had its life in you, because it is what forms one's life that one has true interest in comprehending and defending. What does not form one's life enters into the secondary order, not the primary, and one does not feel the true love that one can have for one's own life. So to the very life of my Fiat, formed in you, I could entrust all of its knowledges, to be able to form as many other lives of it in the creatures. And besides, I was to do with you what I did with myself. When I came upon earth, I observed all laws. I submitted myself to all sacrifices of the ancient law in a perfect way, as no one else had observed up to that time. And after I completed everything within me, consummating in my humanity all the laws and sanctities of the ancient world, I abolished them and gave rise to the new law of grace and to the new sanctity that I brought upon earth. So I have done with you. I centralized in you the pains, the sacrifices, the battles of the present sanctity in order to complete it, and therefore be able to start again the new sanctity of living in my will. That is, the fiat voluntas tua on earth as it is in heaven. Now, where are the contradictions you are saying? When the soul enters into my will to live perennial life in it, the enemy cannot get close. His sight is dazzled by the light of my fiat, nor is he able to see what the happy creature does in this divine light. Light shields itself from everything. It dominates all. It is intangible. It does not let itself be offended, nor does it offend. And if anyone wants to touch it or clasp it in his hands, with enchanting rapidity it escapes, and almost playfully it sprays him with light. It touches everything. It embraces all, to do good to all, but does not let itself be touched by anyone. Such is my divine will. It encloses the soul within its light, and with its empire it eclipses all evils. And as the soul lives of light, everything converts into light, into sanctity, and perennial peace. So evils get lost and lose their way. Disturbances, temptations, passions, sin remain all with their legs broken and can no longer walk. Therefore be attentive and let your living in my fiat be continuous. May 12th, 1929. How one who lives in the divine fiat is the narrator of the divine works. The Ascension. The reason why Jesus did not leave the kingdom of the divine will upon earth. Continuing in my usual abandonment in the divine fiat, I was following the acts of it in the creation. It seemed to me that by uniting myself to its acts, I would do now an act of light, now an act of immensity, now an act of power, and so on and so forth. But while I was doing this, my always lovable Jesus, moving in my interior, told me, "My daughter, one who lives in my divine will and follows its acts is the narrator of all our works. So, as you go around in the sun to repeat together with my will what I did in creating the sun, you act for us as the narrator of the story of its light. And the Supreme Being, in hearing all the story of the sun, what it encloses, the good it does, being repeated to it by you, feels all the glory of its light being given back to it. And as the light shines over all things, invests everything, fills the air, it hears your echo near and far, down below, and in the height of the heavens. And whispering to our ear, you act for us as the narrator of the light, and glorify us so much as to give us a son of glory. Oh, how delighted we are on the part of the creature, because a sphere so beneficial for the whole earth was created by us. And how not to love one who lives in our divine Fiat? She gathers all our qualities and happinesses spread in the whole creation. And now she acts for us as the narrator of the heavens, and tells us the story of their immensity, and gives us the glory of the entire heavens. Now she tells us the story of the sea, and she murmurs together with the waters, love and glory of all the sea to my Creator. Now she narrates to us the story of the flowery earth, and all the plants and flowers elevate their fragrance, and you give us the glory of all the earth. And now you act for us as the narrator of the story of the wind, now of the air, now of the little bird that sings, now of the lamb that bleats. In sum, she always has things to narrate to us among the many things that we have done in creation, in order to give us the love and the glory that we had in creating it. Oh, how sweet and pleasant it is to hear you act as the narrator of our works. We feel our love, our glory, being doubled. More so, since she who does the narration for us lives in our will, that instructing her makes her speak the loving secrets that are present in all created things. Having said this, he kept silent. Then, as though unable to contain the love of his divine heart, he added, "My beloved daughter, you are my hope, the hope of the kingdom of my divine will upon earth. That hope that does not say doubt, but certainty, because its kingdom is already present in you. Your ways, your prerogatives, your narrations are all apartments for my divine Fiat. In you there are its foundations, its knowledges. Therefore I hope that its kingdom will be formed and will spread upon earth." After this I was thinking about when our Lord ascended into heaven, glorious and triumphant, with his humanity no longer humiliated, subject to pains, with the insignia of Adam decayed, but untouchable by any pain, with the insignia of the new innocent Adam, with all the most beautiful prerogatives of creation, clothed with light and immortal. But while I was thinking about this, my most sweet Jesus, moving in my interior, told me, "My daughter, my humanity redid within itself and over itself all the evils of decayed humanity." There's a footnote about the word evils. "For God has made him to be sin for us, who knew no sin." Second Book of Corinthians, chapter 5, verse 21. My daughter, my humanity redid within itself and over itself all the evils of decayed humanity to the point of dying, in order to give to it the virtue of rising again from the death to which it was subject. And this is the reason why I did not leave the kingdom of my divine will upon earth, because the humanity of innocent Adam was missing, glorious and immortal, in order to be able to impetrate it and to receive the great gift of my Fiat. Therefore, it was necessary that my humanity first redo decayed humanity and give to it all the remedies in order to raise it again, and then die and rise again with the qualities of innocent Adam, so as to be able to give to man what he lost. Not only this, but I wanted to ascend into heaven with my humanity as beautiful, clothed with light, just as it came out of our creative hands, so as to say to the Celestial Father, "My Father, look at me, how my humanity is redone, how the kingdom of our will is safe in it. I am the head of all, and the one who praised you has all the rights to ask and to give what I possess. My daughter, an innocent humanity, with all the qualities with which it came out of our creative hands, was needed in order to impetrate again the kingdom of our will into the midst of creatures. Up to that time it was missing, and I purchased it with my death. And I ascended into heaven in order to fulfill with my first task, my second task of impetrating and giving the kingdom of my divine will upon earth. It is about 2,000 years that this humanity of mine has been praying, and our divine majesty, feeling the love of creation that we had in creating man overflow from itself again, or rather, with greater intensity, and feeling itself being enraptured and charmed by the beauties of my humanity, has poured itself out again, and opening the heavens, it has made the rain of light of the many knowledges about my Fiat rain down in torrents, so that like rain it may descend upon souls, and with its light it may vivify and heal the human will, and transforming it, it may cast the root of my will into the hearts, and may lay its kingdom upon earth. In order for my kingdom to come upon earth, first I had to make it known. I had to make known that it wants to come to reign. And I, as an elder brother of the human family, in order to give to it a purchase so great, am making all the arrangements in heaven before the divinity. Therefore, it was necessary that I ascend into heaven with my humanity glorified, in order to be able to purchase again the kingdom of my Fiat for my brothers and children of mine. May 16th, 1929. How the knowledges about the divine will are the army, the acts done in it the weapons, its light the royal palace, the ministry the sacrosanct Trinity. Divine ardor for establishing its kingdom, divine need, its silence, the sorrow of its secrets. Continuing in my usual abandonment in the divine Fiat, I was feeling concerned about the privations of my sweet Jesus. Oh, how my poor soul moaned under the infinite weight of a sorrow that makes all created things say, "Where is your Jesus? He who so much loved you. Ah, you feel that he sustains everything. You touch his beauty that he has strewn over all creation. You see his immensity that you cannot reach. What you see are nothing other than the marks of his steps, that in passing by, he impressed upon all things created by him. But he is not here. And you, run, search for him, and we will accompany you, moaning together with you, to make you find him whom you want. And I feel like everyone speaks to me about Jesus with sorrowful notes, and as they echo in my poor heart, it is tortured by a sorrow that I myself cannot express. And the impression was such as if I wanted to go out of my usual state. But meanwhile, my lovable and good Jesus surprised me, and throwing his arms around my neck, told me, "My daughter, what's wrong? What's wrong? Calm yourself. Calm yourself. How can this be? Do you perhaps want to go out from within the army of my divine will? Look, what an orderly, formidable, and large army, such that as it lines up within your soul, it will not be easy for you to get out. But do you know what this army is? All the knowledges about my divine will. In fact, having formed its royal palace in you, it could not be, nor was it decorous for it to be, without its army. This army we have issued from our divine womb, in order for them to form the cortege. There is a footnote here which reads, "The plurality of elements which compose the army," in reference to the word them. This army we have issued from our divine womb, in order for them to form the cortege, to defend, and to all stand at attention, so as to make known to all who our Fiat is, their divine king, and how it wants to descend with its whole celestial army into the midst of the peoples, in order to fight the human will, but not with weapons that kill, because in heaven there aren't these deadly weapons, but with weapons of light that fight in order to form the life of my will in the creatures. Now you must know that the weapons of this army are the acts done in my divine will. Look how beautiful it is. My love is the light of my Fiat. The king that dominates is my will. The ministry, the sacrosanct Trinity. The army, the knowledges about it. The weapons, your acts done in it. In fact, as you would have had the good of knowing one of the knowledges about it, and would operate by virtue of it, you would form, in my Fiat, the weapons in the hands of each knowledge, so as to give the life of it to other creatures. But this is not all yet. Each knowledge possesses a different weapon, one different from the other. So each knowledge I have given you about my divine will possesses a special and distinct weapon. One possesses the weapon of light in order to illuminate, warm, and fecundate the seed of my Fiat. Another possesses the weapon of the conquering power that dominates and rules. Another, the weapon of the beauty that enraptures and conquers. Another, the weapon of the wisdom that orders and disposes. Another, the weapon of the love that burns, transforms, and consumes. Another, the weapon of the strength that knocks down, makes one die and rise again in my divine volition. In sum, each knowledge of mine is a divine soldier that, manifesting itself to your soul, has let the weapon of each of the offices they possess be placed by you into its hands. Look at what order they have, how attentive they are to their office, and to handling the weapon that each of them possesses, in order to dispose and form the people of the kingdom of my divine Fiat. This army and these weapons possess the prodigious virtue of the infinite, that is such that they diffuse everywhere. And wherever there is a light, even little, in the creatures, they fight with weapons of light against the darkness of the human will, to eclipse it and give it the life of my Fiat. And wherever there is a seed of power or of strength, there runs the divine little soldier with its weapon of power and of strength, to fight the human power and strength, and make the power and strength of my divine will rise again. For all human acts, this army has the opposite weapon with which to fight them, so as to make the act of my divine will rise again over the human act. Therefore, my daughter, it is necessary that you remain in my divine will, in order to form sufficient weapons with your acts done in it, for the great army of its knowledges. If you knew how this army anxiously awaits the weapons of your acts into their hands, in order to wage war on and destroy the poor kingdom of the human will, and to build our kingdom of light, of sanctity, and of happiness. More so, since I am within you, in the great love of my divine will, in the midst of my army, with the continuous counsel of the ministry of the divine persons, as the reproducer of our works. Because we are the operating being, and wherever we are present, we want to operate always, without ever ceasing. Therefore, it is a necessity that you remain always in our Fiat, to unite yourself to us in our continuous operating, and to give us the field to always operate within you. In fact, the sign of the divine operating is precisely this: to operate always, always, without ever ceasing. After this he kept silent. Then, with a more tender emphasis, he added, "My daughter, if you knew the ardor of my love that I feel, because I want to establish the kingdom of my divine will upon earth, so as to realize the only purpose for which man was created. In fact, in everything that has been done by the divine persons, from the time when the world was created, and in what we will do, our principle will always be that one, nor will we ever cease it, that man return into the inheritance of the kingdom of our Fiat that he rejected from us. This is so true, that in my very incarnation, when I descended from heaven to earth, the first purpose was the kingdom of my divine will. It is into its kingdom, that is, in my immaculate mother who possessed it, that I directed my first steps. My first dwelling was within her most pure womb, in which my Fiat held its absolute dominion and its kingdom, whole and beautiful. And in this kingdom of my will that my celestial mamma possessed, I began and I formed my life down here, made of pains, of tears, and of expiations. I knew that I was to be the Jesus neglected, unloved, nor sought for. But I wanted to come, because I could see through the centuries how my coming upon earth was to serve to form the kingdom of my divine will, and by necessity I was to redeem them first, in order to obtain my first purpose. And so, even from that time, I descended from heaven in order to come to find, to search for, and to clasp to my breast the children of my kingdom, who would search for me, love me, recognize me, to the point of being unable to be without me. Therefore, in what I did and suffered, I put a mark, and I said, "Here I shall wait for the children of my will. I shall embrace them. We shall love one another with one single love, with one single will. And for love of them, my pains, my tears, my steps, my works, changed for me into refreshment, into joy, for my heart drowned with love." My daughter, don't you yourself feel how you cannot be without me? And when, in the world, they will read these papers, they will remain astounded in hearing of the long chain of my graces, my daily comings, and for such a long time that I have done with no one else, my long conversations that I have had with you, the many teachings I have given you, and everything that was to serve the kingdom of my divine will. I felt the irresistible need to resume and redo with you all the conversations, to give you the graces and the teachings that I would have given to Adam innocent, had he not rejected the precious inheritance of my Fiat. But he broke my speaking and reduced me to silence. And after 6,000 years of silence, I felt the extreme need to resume my speaking with the creature. Oh, how painful it was to contain so many secrets within my heart that I was to confide to her. And it was for her alone that these secrets were kept, not for others. And if you knew how much it cost me to remain silent for such a long time. My heart was suffocated and delirious. It repeated dolefully, "Alas, I created man to have someone with whom to speak, but he was to possess my divine will in order to understand me. And because he has rejected it from me, he has rendered me the god taciturn. What sorrow I feel, what suffocated love that made me faint, and I raved. Therefore, unable to endure any longer, I wanted to break my long silence with you. I snapped it, and from here the necessity of the ardor of my speaking, for so long, and so often, and repeatedly. And as I pour myself out with you in speaking, I feel as if we were just now giving start to creation. And this is why, in these papers, I am making you write the true reason for creation, what my will is, its infinite value, how one is to live in it, its kingdom, and how it wants to reign, to render everyone holy and happy. All will remain surprised in reading these papers, and will feel the need for my Fiat to live in their midst. The divinity feels an irresistible necessity to complete the work of creation, and it will be completed by the reigning of our divine will in the midst of creatures. What would a creature do after she has made a work with unheard of sacrifices, and for a long time, a work that costs her her life, a work of incalculable value, and that only lacked one point, one shade, one color, if she cannot complete the work that costs her so much? And as beautiful as her work is, as precious and of incalculable value as it is, such that it would form her fortune, her glory, and her complete happiness, she cannot present it to the public, nor can she say that it is a complete work, because one point is missing. For this person, life would change into sorrow, and she would feel the weight of her work. Beautiful, yes, but incomplete. And therefore she feels unhappy. And instead of glory, she feels humiliation. And how many sacrifices would she not make? She would lay down her life in order to place that point, so as to make her work complete. Such is the state we are in. Nothing is lacking to our work of creation. Heavens, suns, works, and magnificence of every kind. But one point is missing. Yet a point that disfigures a work so beautiful. This point is the most important. It is the most beautiful shade. It is the most vivid color that is missing in the creation. Everyone and everything lives in my fiat, but one point of it. That is, the human family is outside of it, outside of my kingdom, and it lives unhappy. What sorrow! There is room for everyone in my volition, and yet there are some who live outside. Oh, how they disfigure it, and render it incomplete. And what would we not do to see it complete? Any sacrifice, my daughter. We are willing to do anything. I have already laid down my life in the redemption, to place this point in the creative work. And when they come to know what will of God means, the great good it can do, and how the only thing that most interests us is to place the rights of our divine fiat in safety, and to make it reign, so as to see everyone happy in our will, of our own happiness, they will no longer be surprised in reading, in these papers, the great things I have told you, and I have done in your soul. On the contrary, they will say, for a will so holy that has done everything, it was right that there be such a display of graces, and so many sublime teachings in the one in whom it was to make the first deposit of its kingdom, so as to make us comprehend it, love it, and long for it. Therefore be attentive, because this is about giving a divine will its rights, so as to render the work of creation complete. You have reached the end of the Book of Heaven, Volume 26, Part 3. Fiat.